I want to go this year, Lubie, if we were ever going to cover a draft.
Oh, Vegas, right? Oh my God.
Viva Las Vegas.
The draft would be insane in Vegas. Oh my God, you kidding me?
In Vegas, right? And think about this now, well, with the new fusion and symmetry between all gambling entities. Remember when Roger Goodell was saying, yeah, you know what, we can't have this, it's gambling. Okay, Raj. Now he's in the sports book going, crazy with every basket by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah, way to go, man. What are you kidding me? That's not a foul.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Oh, what figures to be just an absolutely pristine day here in South Florida. Happy to have you guys with us around the country and around the world on the Defo Show. I'm Jeff Deforrest, along with one Mike Lubitz, and we welcome you to the program. Going to be a very active morning here, as we will talk to a couple of great people here on the program, including Brett Tessler, his weekly performance and appearance on our conversation with the agent to stars, Brett Tessler. And then later on in the program, the Miami Heat really made... can we say this, Lubie? Was that a statement game? In game one of their playoff series against the Atlanta Hawks. Was that a statement game or just, a really good game against a shot fighter in the Atlanta Hawks, who figured to be better in this ball game, although it didn't really go according to plan for a couple of teams in yesterday's resumption of these opening round NBA series. Do I even mention this, Lubie, that we tried to pick the three games yesterday on our Believe podcast?
Oops.
We're filling time. I see we got about 3-4 minutes left in the thing. Pretty much out of conversation. I mean, we had run out of cliches. And so we say, all right, let's go ahead and pick these games against the spread. I went 0-3.
Yes.
Not even close.
Yes.
And you went 1-2. So congratulations to you. You're the big winner.
I thought we
You
had
were betting a $1,000 bettor is only losing $1,000 in your system. I guess 1,100, and $1,000 bettor is down 3,300. If they followed me, a $10,000 bettor is down 33,000. They followed me. Your $100,000 bettor is looking for a non-extraditable country.
Stay away.
But yeah, nothing went according to plan, at least as far as I could see it. So if you're listening and watching the program for our basketball expertise, as of last night, that amounted to next to 0.0 with Lubie, the leading handicapper. And when that happens, Lubie, that's never a good thing, because I don't know you to be above 500 lifetime. Certainly not even close.
Probably not.
I would have to say that whenever I've stepped out on NBA games, it usually has resulted in catastrophe, financial disaster, and just short of financial total ruin, which is never a good position to be in, right? I did watch The Original Gambler last night, Lubie, and this was great. I finally found it. You can get it on Showtime On Demand. Now, Mustang said it was airing on Showtime, but that's the Wahlberg version, which sucks.
No.
I don't know. I mean, was it the Citizen Kane of degenerate movies? And I have to put a parenthetical around that comment, because I was not a fan of the movie Citizen Kane, which shows you what my theatrical and cinematic taste is, because everybody thinks it's the most brilliant thing. Did you ever, were you forced to watch Citizen Kane in some movie class that you took at FSU because you needed a couple of credits and there was no way you could get it in a legitimate course?
In high school,
so you took like film appreciation?
No, in high school in AP English, we had to watch it, and you got the whole hubbub. I had heard about it, whatever. And then
what was so great about it? I don't understand.
I was like, look, maybe it's time sensitive. Like when it came out, the stuff they did was amazing, and it's stuff that by the time I watched it in the late '90s, was passé. But even the storyline, I didn't understand it. I'm like, who's Rosebud?
Citizen Kane, yeah, what the hell? I mean, I'm going to have to read the capsulization again. I've watched Pauly Shore movies with greater interest. Adam Sandler, is like making Citizen Kane type of movies, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. Is The Longest Yard, that good? The remake with Adam Sandler? Probably not, right? And Chris Rock, and Chris Rock took a beating in that movie, so that prepared him well for things that would happen to him later on in life, like the Will Smith incident. But no, The Gambler with James Caan, tremendous. Lauren Hutton in there, very hot, striking. Lauren Hutton had a different look for what was considered to be the All-American girl at the time, right? And the gap in the teeth there, a little Michael Strahan thing going on with Lauren Hutton. But she was great. And the guy gives up everything because he's just a sick, degenerate gambler. He has this thing in him that he cannot overcome, including, in the final scene when he decides to. A lot of good people were in that movie that were just unknowns, I guess, at the time. James Woods has like a bit part in that movie as a bank manager. James Woods. Can you imagine a young James Woods who went on to superstardom? You had any number of other big-time actors. You remember, what was it, Vince Tayback? Remember the guy? He was in, what was that show? It was very popular, Alice. Vince Tayback. You remember this guy who always had the sailor cap on and the white shirt? He was a cook in the show Alice.
Yep.
I used to run into him occasionally when I lived in Hollywood. Yeah, Vince Tayback. He'd be eating at one of the local restaurants there, which was pretty common. It was the one where Lana Turner was discovered. What was the name of that? It was on the corner there, Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, and I don't know, what was it, Laurel Canyon? Something like that.
Katz's? No.
Very famous, yeah. No, Katz's was a deli in New York.
Don't they have one in L.A.? Isn't there like a famous deli in Carnegie Deli or something?
Yeah, there are a couple of places that people used to gather. This was one of them, though, because everybody thought that once Lana Turner was discovered, that you could just sit at the counter there, nurse an iced tea all day, and then maybe that some Hollywood director would come in there and go, hey, that's him right there, Deforrest.
Exactly. It's our dream.
Which, considering that Lana Turner was discovered in what, like 1938, and nobody had been discovered there since, I think the odds were against you. All of a sudden, making her way into the movie business and becoming a big star just by sitting at the counter at this particular place. But I used to see him. It wasn't uncommon to run into like stars in different places. I remember Norman Fell, a famous character actor, Norman Fell.
I know the name.
I ran into him on the unemployment line one time.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm collecting a little unemployment, which was not uncommon for people that were in the restaurant business, and all of these actors are online, right? They had just made like $10 million in a movie. They're collecting $236 a week or whatever it was in the Los Angeles unemployment line. I remember I was standing behind Adrienne Barbeau, which if you were in front of Adrienne Barbeau, I guess you would have known it. Poor, joke, referencing her rather ample anatomy in that one particular area. But she was online in the bank there. Very pleasant woman. So it wasn't uncommon. But a lot of guys that would go on to big time stardom. Paul Sorvino is one of the main characters in the movie. He's kind of like the guy that is the go between with James Caan and whatever mafia guy is borrowing the money off. At one point too, Caan borrows $50,000 off, and this famous black actor always played. I don't know the guy's name, but he plays a lot of like black villains in shows. He's been an immense popular star, and he's a loan shark in this movie, and he lends James Caan $50,000. Now the movie was made in 1975, and he turns to him and he says, 20 points a week. 20 points a week on 50,000. Can you imagine? Guy's going to have to give him 10 dimes a week, and that doesn't even begin to pay the principal. Think about that. And he immediately goes back into this, casino, illegal casino that's being run by some Chinese or Japanese guy who he also owes $240,000 to, and he now has a week to pay it. It's a great movie because it does get into the psyche of the sick, degenerate gambler. Well, way better than the Wahlberg version, yes.
Well, it's like why people cut gems. Like the Adam Sandler movie, to me,
I thought it was awful. I didn't think it was that good.
People thought it was. Yeah. But it was, I guess, if you're not a degenerate, like it gave you an idea. Because to me, like a lot of degenerates liked it. And I'm like, okay, then you aren't that much of a degenerate. Because all the stories I've heard from your people are way worse. I'm like, it was like a normal day for a degenerate, the stuff he went through. Like the stories I've heard from your friends over the years, and they've done it multiple times. I'm like, this is nothing. Like when he got hectic at the end and there's guns pulled and people died, I was like, what? How did that even happen? Like,
that's a walk in the park.
Yeah, I'm like, why do people love this movie so much? I'm like, it's fine, I guess, because Sandler did some acting, and he doesn't do that ever. But I'm like, this isn't such a crazy thing. Like, Rounders was crazier to me than freaking Uncut Gems. Like, but non-degenerates really seem to like it. Like, wow, what a great job! You really felt
Well,
it.
because Sandler faked everybody out. It's kind of like the aforementioned Pauly Shore. If all of a sudden, he did a brilliant job playing King Lear in a Shakespeare movie, here we go. Wait a minute, that's Pauly Shore? Are you kidding me? And Sandler had made so many bad movies that were of the very same ilk.
Yeah.
That you would have to think that any time that he stepped out there and actually, like you said, did a little bit of acting, you thought, "Oh my God, this is brilliant." All I remember about that movie was Kevin Garnett's teeth. Man, that guy's got the best set of teeth I've ever seen. Whoever his dentist is, tremendous job. I mean, the guy, he should have had like his name on the teeth, and everybody would have gone to him, seeing if they couldn't get that same smile, which really stood out in the movie. But if that's the most memorable part of it, then I don't know that it was much of a movie. It seemed a little bizarre. That Uncut Gems to me. Rounders was tremendous because it wasn't until after that poker became a craze that ESPN. Well, what level of desperation was ESPN at when they started televising poker on a regular basis, and it became so popular that you were thinking for a while. I mean, tell me, people, that at some point in time you were trying to justify in your mind, is poker a sport?
Oh yeah, my buddy did. I got
poker a sport.
Yep.
Sport. Now, I know it's Sports and Entertainment Network, so you could certainly qualify watching people play poker as entertainment. But think about it for a second. You're watching people play poker. Hello? Is there something missing in your life? You're watching people play poker.
Just play poker.
Which might be of some interest, if you're watching a final table, you're seeing all of these guys that you're familiar with that are legendary poker players, and you get to see the strategy or whatever. But to sit there for hours on end and watch people play poker, you have to be kidding me.
It was like random. It wasn't like when you watch the World Series of Poker and it gets down to the guy with the hat and like you get this great nickname, Johnny Chan, and they're like the 5 best ever, and no one says a word because it's the most.
There's Amarillo Slim over there, and
okay. But this is like Steve from Umatilla.
It really is. Yeah, some online freak, some guy that never left the house.
It's like, who cares?
That's it, right? I mean, he's got a bunch of magazines that he's satisfying himself looking at and playing cards all day and, analyzing various strategies. Hey, look, if you're the best in the world in anything, you deserve all the credit that comes your way. And in this case, it's an awful lot of cash, an overwhelming amount of cash. I mean, all of these kids started playing poker online. It's insane, what kind of an influence that was, because nobody played. I mean, I do remember, I've said this many times, I'd be rolling around late at night, trying to bet the last race at Balmoral in the race book, and there'd be 4 guys, or not even 4, like 3 guys and a dealer at a poker table, and it was the only poker table that was open in like major casinos. And they'd be going, hey, yo, you want to play some cards? Yeah, no, we'll buy in for your first 100. They were so desperate to get players, and then overwhelmingly took over as, I guess, the recreation of choice for degenerate gamblers, and turned a lot of people into degenerate gamblers also, even more so than horse racing or betting on sports or any of the other stuff. It is kind of interesting to see Charles Barkley in the ads now for FanDuel, in addition to shilling for FanDuel while he's on the set of the TNT halftime and pre- and post-game shows. And there's Ernie Johnson. Now, at least they don't feign like they don't know anything about it, like the people did when Jimmy the Greek first came on and started talking about point spreads on the NFL Today show. And they would all cover their eyes like, oh, well, who you picking, Jimmy? No, I like the Rams, and they may have to win by more than 5.5. They couldn't even really talk about it directly. It was crazy. It was like, some third grade teacher trying to tiptoe around, some new way of teaching or talking about sex, after Ron DeSantis got through deciding what the curriculum was going to be for every student that goes to school in Florida. Way to go, Ron. Nice job. Yeah. All right. A lot of things happening yesterday in the sporting world. I think this, but I've had to amend the statement. And I was talking to Mike Mayo on the Lunchbox show yesterday. And I figured Mayo was from Boston, so maybe he covered Boston Marathon. I was kind of like giving him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, would you assume, and after we saw that picture of Mayo from like 1995 when he started writing for the Sun Sentinel, you would think, okay, it's possible that this kid, ran some marathons. Possible.
Yeah, he was he was in good shape.
Yeah.
were a jerk. I was like, who was that?
Well, I would say the same thing of a picture of me. I mean, just ridiculous. If you think about it, I mean, I think I'm okay now, but I mean, back then, and that's why this marathon thing absolutely is mind-boggling what these guys do. Now, I think only crazy people would run a marathon. Is that a fair statement, Mike Lubitz? Only crazy
Yes,
people.
yes,
What
yes.
would possess you to want to run a marathon? The sense
agree.
of accomplishment?
Who
I mean,
cares?
unless you're picking up the check for $1.50, which is what happened with these two Kenyans. I'm assuming the money's the
Yeah.
same for the men and the women,
Okay.
and they deserve every penny of that. Are you kidding me? 150,000 seems a little bit short when you get $2.5 million for winning a golf tournament. I mean, you just ran 26 miles. What is it? 385 yards.
Oh, good.
26, 385. What's the yardage in the? There was always like that.
Miles the yardage,
That little extra yardage. 26 miles. I want to say 385 yards, which is nearly another quarter mile. If you think about it, you just ran 26 miles and you still have a quarter of a mile to go. Now, in the women's race, they flipped positions about 8 times in the final mile. Can you imagine this? A bloodbath. You just run 25 plus miles and you can't shake this woman? And just lickety split type of time. I think the women ran like 2:17, 2 hours 17 minutes. Yeah, you do the math on that real quickly, Lubie. You're still talking like low 5-minute plus miles for the women in the race. 26 of them in a row. Think about this. I don't know. Did you ever have this thing where this was a big thing for some reason in my high school that you had to run a mile under 6 minutes
We never
to
did that.
qualify for certain teams?
Yeah, we never did that. I know you did the rope stuff and you did running. We never did that when I was in high school or any school.
That's because the president, who was president when you were in high school? I can't do the calculations. Clinton?
Clinton.
What, was Clinton not worried about people's physical shape? No, he was more worried about how he was going to cover up that whole thing with Monica Lewinsky and then the other women. And it does beg the magic question, not to say that you should judge people by their looks. But you would think if your pickup line in a bar is, when the girl says, what do you do? And you say, oh, the president of the United States, that might help you attract, a higher caliber of physical specimen. Can I put it that way?
Probably not, but you did.
Kind of a porky, Monica Lewinsky. And then who was that? Was it Rosie Jones or something? Was that the woman's name? She had like a giant Liza Minnelli nose. Yeah. I mean, looked really weird. I mean, everybody finds different things attractive. I mean, obviously. So who am I to judge? But
yes, the president should.
You would have thought the president could have got better babes. That's what I'm trying to say. Huh?
Yes, we all.
I mean, Hillary might have been all right in her time. I don't know. She didn't really ever overwhelm me as a physical specimen. Hillary Clinton. And then
more so.
Who could put up with her? I mean, how did Bill? I mean, who seems like a mild-mannered, mellow, just carefree kind of guy. How did he put up with Hillary all those years?
It was a business.
And her blind ambition to be in power. Unbelievable. Might be a very fine woman. I don't know. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the Clintons there.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, some bodies maybe to be uncovered. I mean, a lot of weird stuff has happened. People just disappear that knew the Clintons.
They do. That's the thing.
Yeah. Hey, you seen Johnny around? No, won't be seeing him around here no more.
All righty.
That's crazy. But I don't know. Is that cruel to say that, Lubie, that you would have thought that as president of the United States, and a good-looking guy, Bill Clinton, is he not? Very handsome gentleman, even as an older man, still a very attractive male.
Every
specimen.
woman was into him. That's why when the women popped out that he had supposedly messed with, no one believed them because they're like, "What? You?
Yeah.
Come on! Hello, have you seen him?"
Yeah, the one chick was kind of hot. The blonde. What was that? Was that Flowers? Was her name Jennifer Flowers? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, see, there you go. I'm stereotyping things based on my own personal taste because that is the type that has ruined me my entire life.
Yes,
ruined me.
I mean, but
if you're a rich man today, I wouldn't have to be schlepping in here at almost 71 years old and saying, "Hey, Jack, please just give us a little more time, Jack. Come on, we're working on stuff."
Exactly.
Let's get it going. Jack Namer, of course, Ion Channel. He would want me to mention this, though. I mean, do I just throw this in arbitrarily in the middle of a conversation?
What's annoying is I would actually been up for it because Shirley and I, we haven't done it in a few years ever since COVID, but like the Greek.
Oh, the South Beach thing? Yeah.
Greek, well, not even the South Beach, but like the Greek Like we had gotten sort of into cigars here and there, and then the Greek got us to one event that was friggin' cool, and it seemed similar to this event.
Yeah.
But I'll be gone. Like if I wasn't gone, I would 100% go to this thing. Like it sounds super fun.
See, I'm not into cigars, and
I
I
know.
mean, I appreciate the whole thing, but
Well, smoke
I
makes
don't smoke, so I mean, unless I'm rolling a giant spleef or something that looks like a cigar, it's unlikely you would ever see me smoking a cigar, especially at this stage of my life. The cigar of the year party, I did want to mention this though, Oliva. That's the big cigar there, Oliva.
Yeah,
And
big
you can get information about that at universe.com/cigar of the year. It's going to be a big event at the Surfcomber, April 23rd. You don't want to miss that. You'd be going to that, Libby? Really? You and Shirley? Wow.
I would have definitely twisted Jack's arm to see if we could have hooked it up. I'm not gonna lie.
He's good like that, though. If he says he's
know,
going to get you
that's
into an event, bingo, man. You got tickets. You're up
That's why I
front.
would've
He
reached out.
rents you a tuxedo, gets you a limousine.
I mean, I wouldn't want
He
all
really,
that.
he really knows how to take care of his people here. That's why we like working in this system. All right, so I do want to amend my statement about marathons. It's not just crazy people; it's crazy people and Kenyans
Yes.
that run in marathons.
Yes.
Now, this guy that won, and his name is actually fairly simple to pronounce, you would think, but probably get it wrong. The guy that won, the Kenyan that won, and what is this? Wouldn't have worked though. The exacta did not include another Kenyan or Kenyan. Which is it? Is it Kenyan or Kenyan? What would
I
you
had
say?
never heard Kenyan until you pounded Kenyan in my head for 12 years. So I don't.
It sounds better than Kenyan, doesn't it?
It sounds cooler. Oh no, it's Kenyan sounds like impressive. Kenyan sounds fine, but it just sounds like American. It sounds like another country.
Yeah. All right. We'll make it Kenyan. Anyway, the guy's name is Evans Chebet. Does that sound right? Evans Chebet. Chebet.
I don't know.
Kenyan, is that Evans Chebet?
Sure.
This guy runs the thing. I believe his final time was something in the neighborhood of 2 hours and 6 minutes. Think about that for a second, Libby. 2 hours and 6 minutes. Now it's 26 miles. I'm going to do a little simple division right here on the air. Okay. So you're talking about 126 minutes. So he's under. Is he under 5 minutes a mile? Think about that. Under 5 minutes a mile.
Well, I know these guys run under 5 minutes. I don't have to do all the math. Now,
when I was in high school, we had to do these 6 minute miles. I mean, it was an obligatory thing. If you couldn't run a mile in 6 minutes, I believe the condition was you couldn't play on whatever team it was that you were trying out for. I mean, they would make exceptions if you were really good, but obviously this was one of the criteria for even supposedly getting a chance to try out for a team. You had to go out and run a mile in less than 6 minutes. Otherwise, they didn't even want to talk to you.
So Andy Man said they made him run 2 miles, and he would run it in 11. Like a freaking monster.
Oh, forget about that, man.
Oh, wait.
No one's doing that. No, in high school, and by the time I got to be a senior in high school, I was in the best shape of my life. I was just absolutely tremendous. Aerobically, I played sports all day. I could run all day. I had a little bit of speed, and not necessarily like sprinter style. I wasn't going to go out and win like the gold medal in the Olympics, but I could put on a burst of speed, and and run a little bit. And, stamina, literally, just nothing could stop me. I literally could play all day long. Whatever game was going on, I wanted to be a part of it. And I remember, just absolutely being half dead, running like a mile in like 5:50, whatever it was. Oh it was hard to crack 6 minutes. Think about that. Hard to crack 6 minutes. Now you have high schoolers that are top milers. I guess high schoolers now, do they break the 4 minute barrier? Because that was still, still something that was talked about. Roger Bannister, right? Whoa, you believe this cat? 4 minutes. And that was for 1 mile, going flat out the entire way, knowing he wasn't going to have to run another step after that he was going to collapse into the arms of one of the attendants there, and they were going to cover him. What is that? Silver foil they put on the guy?
Yeah.
Aluminum foil?
Yeah. I don't know.
And he was going to look like he was ready to pass out, like for the next half hour as they tried to interview him. And he was, yeah, it was a great pace. And you're thinking, look at this guy. He just ran a 4 minute mile. I mean, he looks like he's ready to be zipped up in a body bag. So imagine, how do you put 26 of those together? Sub 5 minute miles. Mind blowing what these guys do. Mind blowing. I mean, to make it that far, number one, ridiculous, even walking. And then to run 26 consecutive sub 5 minute miles, Lubie?
No idea.
That's superhuman. So what is it? And we've always said this. This has been a theory of ours that if you wanted to win Never mind juicing and doing all this stuff that Lance Armstrong did and all the fugazi things that he had to say and the rotten way that he treated all of the people around him and, just the arrogant and ridiculous approach that this guy had as we tried our best to make him out to be the all-American boy and a superhero, conqueror of cancer and, man who was held in higher regard than even Mandela was.
Yeah.
Right?
Honestly,
in terms
for a while
of creating world peace, yeah. Cheating scumbag who's on a bicycle. I mean, come on. Oh God, a lot of sanctimony was applied to this guy. But I mean, if you wanted to win the Tour de France, all you have to do is open up a bike shop in Kenya. Correct? This would be like a walk on the beach for these guys. Pyrenees, my ass. That's what they'd be saying.
Like nothing. Who gives a shit?
Nothing. Yeah.
Wednesday.
hey, Kip, get over here, man. No, right over the mountain. That's where you're going to ride this thing. Yeah, no, it has 10 different gears. You can shift. Incredible. The guy wouldn't even care. He'd just run it. No problem whatsoever. I don't know how they do it. Crazy people and Kenyans. The only people that should ever be involved in it or are ever involved in any kind of marathon race. What is it that you're trying to prove that you can run this 26 miles? Why do people even think about that? It's an insane distance.
I don't know.
I mean, we're not running from Greece with some message anymore that a war's about to break out or whatever that original thing was. Seriously.
I agree with you. I don't know. I never understood it. People, what do you mean? Shirley sent me some TikTok, and I guess it was like of this guy who married into a family where the family every weekend runs a half marathon just for fun.
Stupid.
And she's like, "What would you have done?" I was like, "I would have rolled over and said, I love you. Go." I'm like, are you kidding me?
Get out of here. That's grounds for divorce right there. Yeah. Any day. When do you ever have reason to take off and run 26 miles, 385 yards? What kind of bizarre distance is that? Where you're going, you know what I got to do today? I got to prove to myself that I can run 26 miles, 385 yards. Go ahead. Go do it, man. I don't even like to drive 26 miles, 385 yards anymore. Do you?
I mean, I drive all the time, but Andy was like, he gets tired just driving. I was like, you're not alone. My wife doesn't like.
I had to drive to Lighthouse Point yesterday. And, it's like probably like a 10-mile jaunt. And I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe I'm taking all day to do this. Crazy stuff. Anyway, we congratulate these people. Obviously, phenomenal athletes. Can't even imagine. But what is it? I mean, it's the rarefied air. I mean, people always talk about training at altitude. Remember, Altitude International?
Yep.
I mean, if you could get that same, buzz going here without having to go to Kenya to train, it makes perfect sense. But I can't for the life of me imagine putting together one sub 5 minute mile and then putting another 25 of them back to back. Seems like a virtual impossibility. And for my money, unless, you're going to make some cash doing it, a completely senseless and useless endeavor.
I agree.
Cross country, too, also was a sport that guys gravitated towards because they couldn't play ball. But still wanted to be involved in a sport. Wrestlers used to be on the cross-country team also, wrestlers, because they needed an incredible stamina. I'm not talking professional wrestlers. I'm talking about high school, college wrestlers.
Yep.
Where they really are exerting a lot of energy, and it takes a tremendous amount of stamina to go through. How many minutes are the rounds in wrestling? Like 2?
No idea. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, I have no idea.
What did it go? Three rounds?
Crazy. I was like, I don't want to beat the shit out of someone. Like what? Like in their practices where they always look tired. I was like, what?
Tired, and they had to make weight, which was torture.
You couldn't eat
for kids in high school, right? You're there. Hey, you want another bologna sandwich? And the guy goes, no, I got a match tomorrow. I got to make weight. You're like, you look fine. What are you talking about? What weight?
You look emaciated.
The guy's like eating. I mean, literally, like Lafitte Pincay. The whole story, the legendary story about Lafitte Pincay. He'd be riding a horse in New York. This was a Los Angeles Angeles-based jockey, the great Lafitte Pincay. In fact, represented right here on my desk. One of the all-time greats. I told Luca Panici he was riding like Lafitte Pincay the other day. Sent him a little text. He had won a couple of races. And, the legend was that he really struggled. He was always listed at 117, and he really struggled to make 117. This has been an issue in horse racing for a while. Should they torture jockeys to make this weight, or just allow them to have an extra couple of pounds there and make the weights higher that the horses carry? I mean, and some people say, it doesn't make that much difference. Other people equate a lot of importance to the fact that a horse is racing at a lighter weight than others in the race. So, thus why trainers use apprentice jockeys who get different weight allowances as they're trying to work their way up to journeyman status, which I believe requires 35 wins, something like 1 year or 35 wins, whichever comes first. So anyway, so Pink Eye always struggled with his weight. I mean, he was strong as an ox. He looked like he could have easily been, a bantamweight champion of the world. I mean, if he boxed, he looked a lot body type wise like this guy Lupe Pintor, who was a bantamweight champion in the 70s and just a fierce Mexican puncher who had also tremendous stamina, right? Training in the mountains there in Mexico City or wherever he was from. I mean, this guy would outlast everybody, be taking a beating for the first 7 rounds. And then by the end of the fight, you were like, whoa. I mean, did this guy just come out of the locker room? He looks absolutely fantastic. So Pink Eye, supposedly to make weight, he would be flying to New York cross country to ride a horse, say, in the Belmont Stakes, and he would literally take out a peanut and eat half of the peanut on the way to New York and then the other half on the way back. And that was his meal.
That's
for
sick.
the 2 days. I mean, you think, is that legend or is that truth? What do you think? Guy actually takes out a peanut. Now, I've seen this with boxers, though, where they have like one grape that they're eating.
What are you going to... How are you going to have energy, though? Don't you have to train? Like, food is a big part of how you have energy. Like, I don't...
That became an issue about when the weigh-in was, and they started having weigh-ins the day before the fights so that the guy could replenish, and then, he would weigh like 154 when they weighed in and weigh 184 when they stepped into the ring.
Pounds. Like, I always thought that was weird. I'm like, how much water weight?
Yeah. I mean, John Candy couldn't have put on 30 pounds in a day.
That was that healthy.
30 pounds in a day. Yeah. I mean, the guy would be like 30 pounds. Well, you know what? He weighed in, Joe, at 154. And here he is tonight. He looks like $187 if he's a pound to me.
He's like Ray Lewis.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
All right. We have a lot of stuff to get into here. We're going to talk to Brett Tessler, the agent to the stars. Joins us every Tuesday here on the show. I was reading a little bit more about the USFL, see if he has any thoughts on that, because you would think that would be appealing to an agent to witness some of what was going on there. Did you not find the occasional guy whose career you could resurrect and or orchestrate from scratch, if that was the case, if this was a starting point? So we'll see what Brett thinks about that. And of course, the draft is around the corner here. I do have a mock draft prediction for our friend Jim Sarney.
Okay.
Who wanted to know who the Dolphins would pick.
I've seen offensive linemen or like linebackers. I didn't have a name for him. I haven't been that into the mock.
Josh Pascal.
Okay.
Josh Pascal.
What's it?
Is the guy predicted at 102nd, the 102nd position here by the guy who's mock draft all 7 rounds in a mock draft. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, how do you do that? They do that all the time, and I don't get it.
What I mean, literally, what is? I guess you could sort of have an idea about whereabouts a guy was going to be taken. Like, you're saying, okay, this guy's 3rd, 4th round. Sometimes, the guy will drop into the 5th, maybe not even get drafted. But in general, there seems to be some kind of concept, about where these guys belong. And I'm never going to be precise, but how do you know who's going to go 102nd? And do you trade up to get him? If he's about to go, if you think he's going 101st, so you get on the phone and go, hey, wait a minute, we need Pascal. We'll trade you. We'll give you a 7th round pick in 2025 and a bag of Fritos, whatever you want. All right. We'll talk to Brett Tessler about that, many other things. Ron Rossi going to join us later on. We always love talking to Ron. He is now the color analyst on the Heat television broadcast and at the same time, original coach of the Miami Heat, and certainly is very familiar with playoff strategies, having been the architect of the bad boy Piston defense, which still, think about that. How would you like to go up against that in today's NBA game? And then later on with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I was also a factor as an assistant coach and coached the Miami Soul, and a great guy to talk to about buckets, and has great insight into the Miami Heat and all things that are going on in the playoffs. So we'll do that later on in the program as well. Hialeah Park, great place to go. You talk about just fantastic times. Hialeah Park is the place to be. And May 7th, I want you guys to circle this on your calendar and make sure that you get involved, get some tickets. We're all going to be there. I know the Andyman, speaking of the Andyman, if he's able to make it down there, that would be great to see him ringside for the fights. May 7th, going to be a spectacular
Yes,
a
sir.
big heavyweight attraction in the main event, and this Victor Abreu kid, who's a sensational amateur in Cuba, now fighting professionally for the first time. Henry Revolt is involved. Their good friend Leon Margulies, of course, the legendary Louis de Cubas. Nobody has done more with Cuban defectors coming into the boxing game than Louis de Cubas. I mean, I think he was like the first guy to get into that. And he handled a career of so many great fighters over the years, and still doing it, man. I mean, that's what you like when a guy either. I don't think they need the money. They just have the passion for the game, these guys. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's going to be a money night down there at Hialeah Park, although it's not going to cost you much. The tickets are extremely reasonable and not a bad seat in the house. Log on to HialeahPark.com, and you can get all the information about the fights May 7th. Of course, it happens to be in conjunction with the Derby. Lubie,
Yes, sir.
champions, the ringside. It's one of my favorite sporting doubleheaders. Go to the track all day and the fights at night. Always loved it, and you get a chance to do that and really do it in style at Hialeah Park. That's coming up May 7th. So make sure you make your plans, clear your social calendar, make your plans to be there for Night at the Fights. And of course, join me in there screaming and yelling, hopefully for Barber Road, the Polyman Special, if it gets into the Derby.
Yes.
All right, coming back with Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars. Ron Rothstein later on in the program. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz with you here on On Channel, and coming back with more on the Defo Show in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Crazy people in Kenyans. So, Lubie, that's it. It's 7:36. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less work, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
Welcome back to the show. Morning once again, everybody. A beautiful day here in South Florida unfolding. I hope you guys are comfortable. Although, Lubie, I saw snow other parts of the country. Snow.
That's crazy.
Including where the great Tony Segreto will be with us tomorrow is heading, or is already there, I would hope. Vermont. That you might expect, but Midwest, all over the place, snow everywhere. We're hoping this man is here in the sunshine of South Florida, in the sunshine of your love. Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, joins us here on the show. Brett, are you wearing snowshoes in Wisconsin, or are you here in your beautiful home in Parkland?
No, I'm just hanging out down here in South Florida, just getting ready for the draft and talking to a bunch of teams, and have different guys visiting different places. So looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here in a couple weeks.
All right, very exciting. I mean, we're talking about 9 days away from the beginning and the first round of the NFL draft, and we'll get into that a little bit. I did, you have a little Forrest Gump in you in this sense that you will try something for the first time and then master it, and then go on to something else. I don't know if you still play tennis. But I remember when you first started playing, I mean, you were firing rackets all over the place. And, you would have to say that, chances of winning were suspect in most matches. And then later on, you became like the club champion at some fancy schmancy place, and just mastered it. And did you then give it up and take up golf? Because you do move around a little bit from endeavor to endeavor, especially in the sporting life.
Well, in regards to my tennis game, one thing about tennis, you're only as good as your competition. And back in those days, I was playing the same few guys, including our old friend Joe Rose, who trying to play against him is not really good for your timing and for your just your overall mechanics, because he plays the drop shot dink slice game. So it's pretty hard to become a good player going against that. And so once I moved to the new community, I was going against much better players, and it allowed my game to progress. And then, of course, after a couple severe knee injuries, my day of championships is over. So now I enjoy going out there and playing doubles with Lonnie and the kids, and teaching them what I know. And so it's been a lot of fun.
You don't get involved in mixed doubles, do you? I mean, you get along very famously and well with your wife. I mean, you guys seem to be very much in tune with each other, which I don't know. Is that even applicable when you're playing mixed doubles in tennis? Because I would think if you wanted to end any relationship, that's all you have to do is start playing mixed doubles together.
That could be true. She's actually playing in a league this season for the first time, and I've kind of taught her what she knows. And so for a few years, we've been out hitting, and she's gotten really good. And so she's one of the better players on her team at the level she's at. And so no, we enjoy going out and hitting. And again, you live in a nice community where you've got the amenities. It's good to get the kids into it as well. And again, just nice to kind of have a chance to get out and clear your mind a little bit before the draft.
You haven't put a court in your own backyard, have you? Did you have like a red clay court back there at the Tessler estate?
No clay courts on the Tessler estate, but we do have a 40-foot putting green that
I saw that.
We enjoy spending time on.
Yeah, Jack Nicklaus doesn't even have this set up. It's unbelievable in his backyard, right? Jack's got a little piece of AstroTurf that the dog pees on, and he goes out there and takes a couple of putts once in a while. Here's Tessler with like his own driving range. It's fantastic. All right. That attests to a lot of your success as an agent, which is why we have you on the show. The reason I brought all this up, though, is I was just wondering if, and I mentioned the Gump thing because I didn't know if you moved on from tennis and then started running marathons. Have you ever been inclined to or participated in any kind of marathon event running, Brett Tessler?
No, definitely not. My build is not conducive to long distance running.
Exactly.
Tennis, not so bad. But, again, these days with the knees deep, I think, most of my outdoor activities will be doing something a little more low impact like golf or things like that.
All right. Makes perfect sense. All right, let's talk about a few things. First, are you inclined, and is the agent world inclined to zero in at all on what is happening in the USFL? How meaningful or inconsequential is the presence and the return of the USFL to the football world, in your opinion?
Anytime NFL scouts have an opportunity to evaluate anything, they'll do it. As expansive as the NFL scouting departments are. Obviously, most teams traditionally have a college scouting department, a pro scouting department, and then also there's other scouts that sort of cross-check with other leagues that, keep an eye on Canada. In the past, they used to keep an eye on what's going on over in NFL Europe, and now they will keep an eye on what's going on in the USFL and next year the XFL. But the reality of the situation is, if somebody goes to that league and dominates, yes, they're going to get noticed and they're going to get an opportunity. But again, they can't just go out there and just be decent. So if you expect to get signed out of one of those leagues back to the NFL or to the NFL for your first opportunity, you're really going to have to go head and shoulders above the rest.
How important is it or significant is it that you have a lot of NFL connections, especially among head coaches? I would imagine some of the executives also have NFL ties. I mean, how helpful is that to a player who, literally might be just a bad opinion away from being a starter in the National Football League and, gets a chance maybe to, at least continue what he's doing. I mean, even when we started doing this, I was thinking, whatever your discipline is, as long as you're doing it, it helps. The minute you stop, you have a problem. And I would imagine it's the same way even for young football talent. If you don't have any place to get out there and play like any level of football after college, I mean, it's pretty good chance. There's a pretty good chance you're going to have to find a copy of the classifieds pretty soon. No.
I guess two old adages that apply to football as well as pretty much any other profession out there. A, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep.
And B, who you know can get you in the door, but you're the one who's got to keep yourself there. And so, yes, obviously that's why a player is smart to go with an agent who has experience and who has relationships and connections. So if I have a guy that I really feel has sort of flown under the radar, like, we mention him from time to time on the show, a guy like Raheem Mostert, I'm calling teams telling them, hey, people are making a big mistake on this guy. You give this guy an opportunity, you're going to see. And so, there's a few players in recent years that I've really, felt the need to step up and go to bat for, just because I knew they wouldn't make me look bad and they wouldn't damage my credibility with those teams, and they haven't. And so basically, it's important for these scouts to be in touch with coaches they may know in some of these other leagues, and that's why it was a good idea for the USFL to hire so many coaches like, Jeff Fisher, for example. Regardless what you think of him, the guy has a very long-standing history in the NFL and, undoubtedly many, many connections around the league. So I think from that standpoint, it's definitely beneficial, and I think these teams do a pretty good job. NFL teams do a pretty good job of keeping an open mind if there's somebody they know is really talented.
I was reading a little bit about the USFL this morning, and they do have the backing of a couple of television networks, which you would think would enhance their chances of survival. It's been 37 years. There will be another spring league, the XFL, also backed with some, I think, significant financing. I don't know what Vince McMahon has left after his initial try with this, but somehow it was probably somebody else that paid the price. But all that being said, the chances of success, I guess, would be predicated on whether or not they can turn the fans on. And, getting back to your point about the older coaches, this was kind of an interesting thing that this guy brought up about whether you can entice people to bet on these games. And that was, you have to make the product as exciting as you can. And these older coaches have a tendency to, even with these kind of players, run old conservative game plans. Like one game, I guess Fisher ran the ball 46 times in a game that his team played. And is that the kind of thing, in your opinion, that would generate enough fan interest in the USFL to sustain, its viability?
I think the ultimate objective of any spring league or secondary league is ultimately, I would think, to get purchased by the NFL.
Okay.
So I think the first thing you need to show, if you're one of these leagues, is that you've got a decent quality of play. And from that standpoint, they're all doing the best they can. They have limited resources. They're certainly not going to get anybody who has the opportunity to sign with the NFL. Nobody's willingly going to say, you know what, I think I'd rather go play for the USFL. This isn't 1984. This isn't Herschel Walker. These leagues are going to try to get players, and especially, the unfortunate thing is with the shortage of quality quarterbacks out there. I mean, heck, the NFL doesn't even have enough of them. That's the biggest problem. So, the most important position for any teams in this sport, it's going to be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to find any player who really emerges as a marquee guy. And, people say that the NFL is a quarterback-driven league. Well, maybe that's why it's better off to hand off the ball, 30, 40 times a game, because it's probably going to be your best bet to win at this level, because you're not going to let's just say that the players in the secondary of these leagues, these corners, are certainly at a higher level than the quarterbacks they're going against. And so the more times you put the ball in the air, the more likely the chance of an interception or something bad happening.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned this. This is like, part of your time of the year where everything is amplified. The draft is 9 days away. So Give us a little bit of a synopsis of what your next 9 days are going to be like, Brett Tessler, as you get ready for this thing, because you were describing and gave a great illustration last week on the show about how your head is plugged into like all 32 war rooms somehow. And there are a lot of maneuvers being made and phone calls being made and jockeying for position and, trying to get in the right place at the right time for both players and teams. So that was interesting how it heats up when you get into the later rounds of the draft. But what is the build up to the draft for you? I mean, what kind of activities do you have to engage in as a sports agent representing different players?
At this point, it's not as much as people on the outside might expect. Basically, you're helping coordinate visits if you've got a guy who's being brought in for team visits or is having coaches or scouts come through their campus to give them one last workout. These are the things you're just sort of helping coordinate. But as far as the nuts and bolts of it, that's the work that's been done over the last few months, leading, including getting your guys prepared for the combine and pro days, that kind of stuff, going to all-star games with them, starting to get some feedback after that, all the way through the pro day. At this point, it's kind of like fishing. And right now, the bait is set. The lines are in the water. And hopefully in a week and a half, we'll be getting a lot of bites.
Talking to NFL agent Brett Tessler. Follow him up on Twitter at Tessler Sports. Also great on Facebook, Brett Tessler. Okay, so we've heard so often that combine, pro day, Senior Bowl only matters so much. The interviews are really where the NFL teams feel like they learn the most about the players. As the agent, I feel like you're as big a part of prepping these players for the interviews. However, we've heard some of the most ridiculous questions in these interviews. So how do you get players prepared to be asked about their mother's sexual life and their sexuality when really their focus should be on football?
Yeah, obviously the league has gotten away from that. There was the episode with Des Bryant in the interview with a team and an executive that I won't name, where it turns out there was some turns out there may have been some inappropriate questions asked, and that got out in the public and was not a good look for the league. And so the league has become way more polished, way more professional in the years since that. And so it's really, these guys are treated way more professionally. It really is more like a traditional business type interview. And the reality is teams know what these guys can do from a football standpoint. At this point, they've got all the film in the world they need to watch. The most important thing is teams have gathered all the medical information on the players that they need by either, again, having their doctors examine these guys at the combine or bring them in for an official 30 visit where they can do it there. And as far as character of these guys, they've had the opportunity to be around these guys now at the combine, at the pro day, at the all-star games, as well as they've talked to coaches and, again, people, agents, like a lot of coaches who've called me in the last couple of weeks. They're like, what do you think of so-and-so? I'm like, I think the guy could really end up becoming a good pass rusher or whatever. And the coach will be like, I don't give a shit about that. Tell me about about him as a person. And so, they can quickly learn that stuff. So it's one of those things where, again, at this point, I think the information has been gathered, and I think confidently that you can have the draft tomorrow. These teams are ready to go. And if anything, over these next 10 days, it's over-analysis and overkill and second-guessing and things that could probably get teams in trouble as it relates to making the wrong pick, as opposed to just going ahead with the information they have and going ahead and going for the guys that they think they like and that they think they need and that they think fit what they do.
Okay, when the coach asks that follow-up, I don't care. What about the kid? How honest are you? Because, again, you have to sell your client. But if you tell him he's a sweetheart and then he turns out to be Aaron Hernandez, like the coach will, I presume, will put a lot of that on you because you must know if the kid's sort of off base. Like when a coach asks you that, how do you respond to not only sell your client, but still be honest? You have to keep a relationship with the coach.
I think it starts during recruiting. And so I usually will not reach out to a player that I don't think I can connect with.
Okay, wow.
That I don't think I share the same values with, that I don't think I share the same vision and goal with. And so there's nothing more disheartening as an agent than when there's a player who I really like as a player, and then I have the first conversation with him and I just realize, this isn't going to work. This isn't my kind of guy.
Wow.
And so at that point, I will remove myself from consideration because my reputation is everything. It's all I've got. I've worked 25 years to build it up in this league. And so when a player signs with Tessler Sports, if nothing else, it tells the team three things about that guy. Number one, this guy is smart. This guy's tough. This guy's hardworking. And so while, again, I may not necessarily represent the top pick in the draft, sometimes as an agent, you don't want the top pick in the draft because sure, there's a lot of initial money that can be made, but there's also a lot of potential headaches if it's a guy who's a diva or a guy who's had everything handed to him throughout the years or a guy who has a sense of entitlement or any of the other things that some people in this world have. So it's all about finding the right chemistry between you and your clients. And so really, when teams ask me, what's your opinion about this guy's makeup or this guy's character, or this guy's personality, when you represent guys like Zach McLeod from like I have, look, here's a guy who has overcome a lot of adversity. Here's a guy that has been a team captain there, known as one of the ultimate leaders, the heart and soul of that defense. So really, when you represent people like that, it makes life much easier.
Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, with us here on the Defo Show on ION Channel. Brett's presence every week brought to you by will and trust attorney Mr. Michael D. Wild, who you definitely can trust and is a man of high character. One more thing on that, because, as you were talking about how the coach would say, hey, what's this guy do? And you say, well, I tell you what, he's going to knock out a quarterback on the first play, and you'll be in love with him from that point on. And he says, no, I don't care about that, the character. But it seems like all of that goes out the window with a lot of players, including, certainly you would have to wonder what exactly is making Antonio Brown click, if he's all there and in charge of his capacities to have all of these bizarre behaviors. And a team will sign a guy like that in a heartbeat. So is that, and we've been hearing that forever, and I want to believe that the league is more concerned. We hear about how valuable these interviews are and all of that, but does it not go out the window if the guy, can run a 4.40 and, pick off 16 passes a year?
Let's be realistic. It's the National Football League. It's not the Boy Scouts of America.
Exactly.
There you go. Now we're talking, Brett.
Exactly.
It's a sport played by big, tough, competitive guys.
Yeah.
You have to be emotional to succeed in this sport. The biggest thing is about controlling your emotions and being able to turn it on and off when you step over that sideline. So again, like we talked about, it's just about finding the kind of guys who that you can count on and won't make you look bad. And that's the perfect segue. You mentioned Mike Wild, best estate planning attorney down here. And I am not somebody who really puts their neck out there for people that I'm not sure about. But when it comes to this guy, I can tell you right now, he did an amazing job for my family. He's done an amazing job for many, many thousands of people down here in South Florida. So anybody out there who needs to get their estate plans in order, reach out to Michael Wild, South Florida Wills with an S.com.
Man, and a follow-up with this guy is just impeccable. He really is great, Michael D. Wild. In fact, our friend Annie said he recommended Michael D. Wild to somebody just the other day. And, that's the way it goes. Anybody that's had any experience with him, including myself, with my mother's will and trust, what a fine job he did. And that would have been a mess to untangle. Worse than some of the deals that were made by, I don't know if we wanted to mention Jeff Ireland. But a mess to untangle. I'll mention him, man. Michael D. Wild. No, just absolutely fantastic. SouthFloridaWills.com. All right, Brett, be very exciting next week. Look forward to talking to you on the program, and thanks so much for being with us here today.
Pleasure's mine, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, Tess.
All right, thanks a lot. Why did I think Tessler had run a marathon, though, Lubie? Because everybody has, except me?
No, because Tessler does all this nature crap. Like he's
Yeah.
skiing, and then there's skeet shooting, and then he's log jamming, and
Right.
all this crap with
Cutting wood like he was
the
Sonny Liston out
Stanley.
there, getting ready to fight Ali
It's
for
like-
the second time.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if he had run a marathon. And his wife is in great shape, and she's always like doing some exercise stuff. I wouldn't have doubted it. I mean, if he had said it.
Yeah, I want to say, did he say that his wife had run some like half marathons? I could see that very
I don't
easily.
see that stuff. But I would have
Yeah.
presumed he did too. So I give him credit that he doesn't.
I'm just gonna go outside like with a pair of like those sort of neon colored shorts
Yeah,
and put a number on myself and see if anybody believes. I get a little schwitz going. Maybe just spray myself with a garden hose. And,
Don't run.
It's always a weird number too, like 597, something like that. It's not like you're, hey, yeah, I want Willie's number. I want 24. But you think anybody would buy it? That was like running marathon? I mean, you have to be out of your mind, Lubie. Think about that for a second. 26 miles. What is it? 385 yards? Was I right about the yardage there?
Yeah, what I found was over 1,000 yards. So maybe I did it wrong. I don't know. I don't know how they equate.
No, come on. 1,000 yards is like what was it? Like 1,700 yards, something like that to a mile.
Yeah, it was something like that. That's
So
what
it would be 27 miles then. No, it can't be.
I did
You
one
got
mile.
26 miles, and how many yards is it? You need to find that out, Mike Lubitz. It's driving me crazy. Somebody will know. Maybe put it up on the chat line. All right, speaking of chatting, always great talking with Ron Rothstein. I mean, Ronnie, he really gets into it. When he starts dissecting basketball, it's kind of like we have our own version without the overwhelming amount of statistical data, but he will throw some stats in there. He does some numerology. I mean, it's a little bit of a Hubie Brown sort of thing, is it not, Lubie? Is that fair to say about Ron Rothstein? A little bit of a Hubie Brown situation, and I love Hubie Brown. I'm glad he's still doing it because, it's a guy that, you listen to, he comes up with all of these great numbers. But Ron Rothstein's dissection of what goes on in an NBA game is always fascinating for us. And he's been in the NBA, I mean, how many years? He was the original Heat coach, right? So that's what, 1988. And he had already had like a pretty significant career as an assistant coach, working there with the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boy Pistons, right?
The one that devised the Jordan. He's a humble dude, so he wasn't saying it to be humble, to be braggadocious. Like when we talked about the Jordan stuff, he said, yeah, it was literally freaking impossible to stop the guy. So I sat with Chuck and our staff and was like, look, what if we do this?
Chuck Daly, man, had to be a cool guy to hang out with, wouldn't you think? Especially when the team was rolling. Chuck Daly, when he was around. What a character, man. He was great. That was a tremendous era of NBA basketball coaching characters. Although, I don't know, I guess Gene Shue kind of preceded that. But he always struck me as being just an all-out stiff. Gene Shue, I don't know if you remember this guy. Had the hair flattened down.
Yeah.
Had a full head of it. I mean, this wasn't a Bill Self situation. And, always, and just seemed like he never, was happy about anything, right? Kind of. Thibodeau at least looks like he has bad antacid attacks going on. But should he put on like about 20 pounds since he went to the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau?
He's always been a sort of rotund fellow. So
but he looks like he's ready to burst there on the sidelines.
Oh, yeah.
He really does. Yeah.
I mean, it's been a joke.
What do you think about the coaches not wearing suits? I kind of like that when the coaches wear suits, even though it didn't make any sense. Do you like them in casual clothes?
Yeah, I just think the suit thing's a little bit like they look fine in suits and it's more professional. So I was never like upset about it. But when you see Spoelstra in the slacks and the polo, it makes more sense to me. It's sports. Like I never got why they have to be like when Lombardi used to wear a suit at a football game. I was like, okay, I mean, it's hot as hell outside. Why does he need to be in a suit? I never got it.
Shula, man. I remember Shula with the suit on.
Yeah, I never.
Sideline. Tom Landry, right? A classic. Now, coaches, Riley obviously made a statement, which I was reading some critique in a column the other day, and everybody said how absurd it is that whoever it is, the actor is that's playing Pat Riley, is trying to pull this off as if it was a legitimate portrayal of what Riley was all about. Well, what a disgrace. Reach out to Tim Donovan, will you? I hate to use that terminology, reach out. It's not a phrase I'm fond of, but see if you can get a hold of Donovan. Let's put it that way. And I don't know. Would Riley consent to come on just to address this thing?
Oh, no.
They don't like to have these guys, executives on from the NBA. They're very, very tight about like, well, you know what? We can't talk about anything.
Yep.
until this issue was settled. And you're like, well,
Yep.
what issue? Who knew anything was happening? You guys are playing. But would he just address that? I mean, the ridiculous, buffoon-like portrayal of Pat Riley in Winning Time, the show about the Los Angeles Lakers. It's unbelievable, right?
We won't talk about it, but yes, I haven't watched the last few, but the way they started portraying him was something that even if Riley
he looks like Ringo Starr, when he was with the Beatles in this thing. He does. Big nose. Unbelievable. All right, we're coming back. Ron Rothstein is going to join us, and we'll get into it. Lubie's very excited, and I don't know. I mean, based on what you saw last night, a repeat cream job of the Toronto Raptors by the Philadelphia 76ers. Annihilated them again. I mean, just annihilated them. That was a hotly contested game very early in the game. That was the portion that I watched. And then I got involved watching The Gambler with James Caan, which, could I watch it again? I don't know. Does that make it the Citizen Kane of degenerate movies, or was it just something that I felt at the time going all the way back to 1975? What do you think, Lubie? I wasn't disappointed that I watched it. Let's put it that way.
I think both. I mean, I've only heard good things I've seen parts of The Gambler, but I've only heard good things about it. Like, it is considered in the pantheon of great gambling movies or sports movies in general.
Because it shows you the psyche of the whole thing, right? And Jerry West, he misses a 3-to-make-2 opportunity and cost him a bet on the Lakers. And then he eventually he didn't put the radio in the bathtub. The electric it was plugged in, this radio, and he was listening to Chick Hearn, and they actually had Chick Hearn in the movie during the game. But he fired it against the wall. That's what happened. Like, kicked it against the wall. It was good. James Caan's good in this movie. He really is. Yeah. The Wahlberg thing, though, wow. I mean, they may as well have had Pauly Shore play the guy.
Wahlberg.
How is he in so many movies, Wahlberg? I mean, and he's always the same guy, right?
Yes. Oh, he's not a character actor. It's him. You always get him.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Wahlberg? Would you go out of your way to see a Wahlberg movie?
I don't hate him.
I don't. Yeah, I have no hatred towards the guy.
But I mean, he's not great. I've watched his movies because sometimes he's in a movie with a good cast, but he himself isn't scintillating. I've talked with him before. He was a nice guy when I talked to him, and he was funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think he's horrible. I don't think he's great. I think he's in.
Well, that's right. You had that interview with him. You still have that clip where you asked him what his sex life was like.
That's great.
That was a good one, Lubie. You were a much more forward, interviewer at that time, right? I mean, that was always your first question to everybody.
Yeah, what's your
kind of like Joe Rose when I was working with Joe Rose, who Tessler mentioned with his tennis game, and he does have a Vegematic tennis game, which it's annoying, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're standing by the baseline, the guy's hitting all these little floppers and cut shots, and you're like, what is that? I do it all the time.
Exactly, and you do
frustrate the living daylights out of people. Right? What? Another drop shot? Okay. If you're going to play like that, I don't care if I lose. Once you drive a guy to that statement, then if you were going to just go for the psychological warfare in some kind of game, you got him, right? As soon as he sees you, like poised like this with the little cutter, boom. He's already throwing a racket against the fence. You've defeated the guy before you've even hit the first shot. It's great. And I always talk about how valuable the drop shot is before each match that I play, especially with my friend Dr. Jerry, who his knees are shot. What's he going to do? Jim Otto has better knees than this cat, and I'm hitting droppers on him while he's impaled to the fence. What is wrong with me, Lubie? There's something wrong.
Competitive in a weird way.
No, I don't mean to do it. It's just that happens to be my game. And it's the same thing with Joe Rose. What's he going to do? Right? But a Vegematic game, that's what that is known as in the trade, recreational tennis players. Dropper, though, like I said, it's become a much more significant weapon in men's professional tennis. You would not think so, would you? These guys are creaming balls. Their ground strokes go over, like 100 miles an hour. They're able to literally hit the ball on a dime, hit the corners, do whatever. And what's the big weapon now, Lubie? The dropper, including that kid, Carlos Alcaraz, who's sensational. Although he got knocked down to the Monte Carlo tournament, so he wasn't able to double up. Not an easy road to the top there in men's professional tennis. Right? Always changing position. It's happening in golf now, too, since Tiger has, been off the scene there and has not been at the top of his game. All right, we're coming back with more. Ron Rothstein going to join us here. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's a great place to go. And if you get down there, mile marker 104, I believe the forecast is for just absolutely sensational weather, at least the next couple of days. And it might be all the way through the weekend. But you know what? It's not that far of a jog. Mustang did it the other day with a friend. They were on some kind of an errand they had to run involving like a construction job. But nonetheless, I mean, the jog down to Isla Mirada, a couple of hours, so even less. You're talking about an hour and a hook from Broward County, and you're at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and you may as well have just left the face of the earth. It's kind of like walking into Hialeah Park. You think, wow, did I just die and go to heaven? What is this? This is absolutely fantastic. I could live like this forever. Fantastic food and drink, great service, just a tremendous ambiance, and great lodging. If you're inclined to stay there, look into that at jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com. But we couldn't recommend it any more highly. That plate of nachos, I have to see one, Lubie. I really do. As a professor described it, he said it literally was on a plate that looked like something you would see the size hanging on the wall in a museum of modern art, right? Like a giant thing. And loaded, too. You know, you don't have to look at the bottom and go, sir, there's supposed to be some chunks of meat on this thing. I don't know. Do you send back nachos, as Drek? Have you ever done that?
No.
I'll have to check with the Gambling Gourmet on that. But no, these are great, because you don't have to worry about like there's nothing on the bottom, right? And you're going to be picking only from the top, and then after that, you stuff a handful onto a plate, and then leave everybody else cold. You don't have to worry about it at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. It's a sensational place, and that's just the very beginning, right? Professor said he wanted to sue him because had he known, the portions with the nachos, he would have never ordered more food.
Exactly. It was too much food.
And you want to. I mean, you want to make sure that you're on board with all of the other stuff, including the freshest of seafood. I mean, all prepared so tastefully and so perfectly by Dominic and Jemmy in the kitchen there. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. You'll love it. The ground's fantastic. Water sports, all kinds of stuff. Sit by the pool, have a couple of cocktails. It's Key Largo. Mile marker 104 on the Overseas Highway. All right, coming back with more. Ron Rothstein going to join us later on in this hour. Lubie and I will continue with the Defo Show here on On Channel. Once again, I mean, see, I'm surprised because I didn't know you were that into cigars. But the Cigar of the Year party that Big Jack is a part of, man, unbelievable.
I don't smoke
cigars. Yeah,
I don't smoke them so often these days, but like I do like a nice cigar in Shirley, and whenever we travel to like the Caribbean, we always buy cigars. And these events are so fun.
Yeah. I mean, they're well run, and I'm intrigued because I looked over here. They have a way for you to blend your own cigar of the year at this party, and then I like this feature over here: open bar for 3 hours with GH Mum champagne. I mean, they're not breaking out like Corbel here. I mean, this is not cheap stuff.
Nice.
Avion tequila. They have Chivas Regal Scotch being served. Jefferson's bourbon.
Alcohol.
High West whiskey. Zafra rum. I mean, hors d'oeuvres, right? They probably have the little knishes, all of this stuff. Fantastic. No, it's really going to be a high-class party. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you can be there. The Cigar of the Year party with Oliva Cigars, Melanio Madura at the Surfcomer Hotel. And that's right there on South Beach. What, around, is it like 5th, 6th Street, somewhere in there? 12th? I'm not sure. I remember staying there one time a long time ago. Since then, I would imagine they've done quite a bit of renovation to the place, but no, going to be fantastic. Great place, great spot. You're right there on the scene. Go out there and party on South Beach afterwards, too. That could be a lot of fun. Universe.com/cigar of the year for information, tickets to this fine party. It's April 23rd, by the way, which is what? Is that Saturday night, Lubie? Right around the corner here? Yeah, this is the 19th.
It's this Saturday.
I use my fingers here. 20th.
It's Saturday.
Saturday night. All right. Going to be a blast. The Cigar of the Year party. All right, we're coming back with more. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show. Ron Rothstein. Very excited to have Ron on the show. It's always great. And he's going to join us in the last segment of the program here today, as we'll be with you until 9 o'clock Eastern Time on On Channel, and returning with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:13.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
The great Lawrence Taylor with us here at 940 Wins, 1230 The Zone. Your relationship with Parcells.
We were always been friends from the first time I met him in the University of North Carolina. And Bill was a great guy because he would get on the bus. We'd get on the bus on Sunday. You know, getting ready to play the game, we get on the bus and he'll go through his roll call. He looked down that roll. He said, LT, you here? And I would say, yeah, coach, I'm here. He would say, okay, bus driver, let's go. We got enough to win.
That's great. From South Florida to the entire world, here is Defo, joined by Lubie on the Defo Show.
We became the center of the football universe when we got that clip from Lawrence Taylor at a Radio Row here in Miami for the Super Bowl that was held here a couple of years ago. And by the time we got done with the interview, it was wild, right? We had like 20 guys standing around the location there, and all of them had some very distinctive stature as either current or past NFL players. And they were laughing hysterically at Lawrence Taylor's story. And, of course, we majored. What course was that at FSU? Was that Journalism 201? Radio talk shows / how to, infuse gratuitous laughter into a program?
No, I mean, I've only laughed when things are funny. People think because my laugh is weird, they think it's fake. Believe me, there's plenty of times things are said and I don't laugh. I mean, to me, if something's funny, I laugh. And now there's different levels, but the LT wasn't gratuitous. Like, I don't know if the comment was that funny to people, but it was a vibe. Like, if you're saying something's funny and something's funny said, it makes you laugh louder. You're in the vibe of laughing. Like the whole conversation, especially if your expectations low about laughter. Like we've done that a few times. Like, Pat, the woman that we had on Believe, the old time singer, where we didn't expect her to be funny at all, and
Debbie Boone, you were talking.
Debbie Boone, Pat Boone's daughter. Debbie Boone. For us, our expectations were low. So if she said anything funny, we were going to be caught off guard and laugh. And she actually said a few things that were really funny. So that's a lot of the time.
Natural.
A lot of the time, and when you have a comedian, you're expecting to be funny, and what they say is decent but not hilarious. So but it wasn't. Whoever people have said that to me. Oh, that can't. I'm like, okay, then you weren't there, which obviously weren't. He was hilarious. Like LT had like 40 people standing around losing it. People were walking by, just hearing what he said, stopped to watch the conversation and laugh. Like other famous people were doing that. So he was hysterical. Like he was really funny. Like I wish we could get him on again. Like he was a good time.
It was great. The lovely Robin West responsible for that. And it was kind of cool because here's Lawrence Taylor, who is revered.
Yep.
It would be like being at some NBA gathering and Michael Jordan walked in.
Yes.
Revered as possibly the greatest player of all time in some people's opinion. And, in spite of whatever jackpots that he's endured and been through, still, very well liked by virtually everybody that's connected with the NFL. And, he stops by our place first. So he really, that was good because, we got him. If you get a guy, it's like the flowers are in a punch by the time the guy does the 30th interview, unless you're talking to like Joe Theismann or something. Right, Lubie, where the guy can just crank it up like for the 22nd consecutive interview where he's answered the same 4 questions, right? How'd your leg really feel there, Joe? Unbelievable, man. I mean, I remember watching that play as it transpired when Theismann, the leg was just like twisted like a pretzel. You're like, oh my God, that is not going to be good. Very well spoken, though, Joe Theismann, although, sometimes has a tendency to show for things that you would consider to be probably less than completely reputable. I don't know. I don't want to say that. Do I, Lubie? I don't want to get this guy into any kind of, besmirch his reputation as a spokesperson. But, the reverse mortgage thing many years ago did seem a little bit suspect, did it not?
Oh, he's done a bunch of stuff. Because that's why we made that joke. It wasn't like some stereotype. Like every year he would have something new. Like people on every year, but they'll have the same thing. It's a recurring client relationship with a talent, and they'll keep paying him to come back. He would have something
like Nick Mangold with that blowtorch, that barbecues.
Exactly. Like 3 years in a row. Theismann, for like 6 straight years, it was 6 brand new products. And they were all randomer than the last. It was like, what the hell?
I mean, everything from like Valentine's Day candy to condoms. This guy was selling. It was incredible.
Hair restoration.
Not that we would turn down any opportunities that came our way on this show.
No, we gave him credit. We're like, good for you.
You never knew what he was going to break into either. Your heart's a very important thing there. You're like, oh, really, Joe? What are you selling now, man? Eloquist? What is it? No, I don't feel like an elephant just stepped on my chest. What are you talking about, Joe? Anyway, it was Lawrence Taylor, a lot of fun, and we always had a good time with that sort of thing. But that was great, and just the whole concept that Parcells, here's Bill Parcells, a stoic, militaristic type coach, and he's going, LT, you here? Okay, yeah, we're good. Let's go. That'll be that. All right, we're going to talk with Ron Rothstein now. You're very excited because I would expect, and this is not good. We went 0-3. I went 0-3 yesterday picking the NBA games. I thought Utah was a layover at 4 and a hook. They came right back with that same line, 4 and a hook. And you know that every now and then when a star is missing, like a guy that you think literally like Quasimodo carries his team on his back, and that would have to be the consideration that you would give Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Do you know another Maverick? Can you name another Maverick? No, right?
Now I can. Now because I looked up the stats trying to figure out how the hell last night happened, but I couldn't have before last night. Before now.
I mean, Doncic is second only in terms of being relatable to the Mavericks to Mark Cuban. That would be it. And then it pales in comparison, right? Everybody else is an also-ran in terms of Dallas Maverick identity factor. All right, so they're missing him, and you're thinking, this is impossible, right? Utah, a pretty good team, right? Quinn Snyder there, former Dukester. He was there playing. I mean, you would have known he was on the team if you heard Jay Billis tell the story about how he was entirely responsible for the team's success the 4 years that he was there, averaging 8 points a game. Thank you, Jay. It's the smugness, Lubie. It's not.
I agree.
I'm sure he's a very reasonably, approachable guy or whatever. I don't know, but it just seems like he's got a very smug attitude. Kind of put him in the same category as like the Jim Grays of the world, although not as smarmy as Gray.
I mean, Gray.
Yeah. I mean, not
level.
Right. I mean, Jim Gray, as soon as you see him, it's one of those guys. You want to fire something at the screen, no? Getting paid millions of dollars to piss people off. It's great. But not in the Stephen A. Smith fashion where, it's all theatrics. This is a guy trying to be sincere who sincerely comes off as, unfortunately, a bit of an asshole. Just that face he makes. I don't know what it is, Lubie, about Jim Gray.
When he asked by stuff at the worst time that he knows is like dumb. Like the stuff with the boxing. A lot of the stuff he's done, it's like, come on.
Oh, terrible questions, yeah. It's not easy to do those post-fight interviews, especially with a guy that doesn't speak English. I understand, and I've done it, okay? And even though I've been a boxing fan my whole life, you're standing there in the ring, and the guy's about to throw it to you, and you're thinking, what the hell do I ask this guy?
He can't speak to me.
Hey, did you feel that right hand when your eye started to bleed from every pore? Were you hurt at any time? I mean, like really stupid questions. I guess post-game interviews in general tend to be, pretty lame. Right? I mean, it's an art if you can ask a really good question. And then awful if you have to go through an interpreter. I told you I had that one time in Atlantic City where I think I was in the ring doing post-fight interviews on about 5 fights on a pay-per-view card and the 5 winners all spoke different languages,
Oh,
right?
Jesus.
Like not one was. It wasn't like 2 guys spoke Spanish. So you were used to what this guy's pattern was. One guy's Russian, one guy's Polish. One guy's from Ethiopia. You're like, well, what the hell is this? And it's a little bit rough, right? And then the other thing is, people for some reason, even though you have no idea what they're saying, they want to grab the microphone from you. Which, if that was taught in Journalism 101, never give up the mic, because now you've lost control of the show, right? Directors screaming, right? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Never.
Oh no, it's a disaster, man. It happened to me once, and I was like, uh-oh. I'm like nailing a guy in the groin, trying to, shake him up a little bit. So I go, okay, yeah, Joe, you were saying. This guy's doubled over in pain. Anyway, well, we were dead wrong yesterday. I would have never thought that they threw the line out there at 4.5, right? I mean, what looked more obvious than a Utah repeat? Now, they didn't beat them by that many points in the first game. I think they only won by 7.
Yeah, it was close
in the end. But, you would figure, okay, they beat them even worse this time because they already know what it's like to go against this team. You do see the so-called scrubs rise to the occasion every once in a while and play like a dynamite game. That happens in the NBA, and it can even happen in the postseason, which it did, as Dallas, in the key moments of the ball game, the final couple of minutes, made all the right plays, and Utah fell apart at the seams. Quinn Snyder was ready to pull his curly hair out. That was it. So that series evened up at 1 apiece. Now we thought the Raptors. Again, what is wrong with us, Lubie? We don't listen to ourselves and trust our own instincts. Is that not a characteristic? Speaking of James Conn, the gambler, trust your own instincts.
But we speak to experts. It's very much like Arizona, the Cardinals. Like if they say stuff enough, it's like, okay, I trust these people's opinion. There must be something to the Raptors we're missing. That's why I was like, look, the Raptors aren't going to win this series, fine, but we heard for a week that the Raptors are playing great ball and they're a great team and the effort's there. So I'm like, okay, they're going to take a couple games in this series, at least put up an effort. Like they were worse last night.
Oh no, they were horrible.
I was
early in the game. It was real rough, and Toronto actually got out to a quick early lead, like 16-6, something like that. And then Joel Embiid in this ball game, he really did. He looked like Moses Malone under the basket, didn't he? And he just pounded it inside. They had no answer for him whatsoever, Toronto. And then James Harden, he didn't have a lot of points, but was a factor in the game. And your man, you mentioned this when they first made the Harden deal. You were talking about how Maxey has all of a sudden risen up and become, a high caliber player and a potent scorer. And again, last night, I think he was off to a very slow start during the portion of the game I was watching and ended up with 29 points. And was a catalyst on, just about everything good that happened for the 76ers. So that was a torch job. I had the Raptors coming back and at least playing them tough, and dead wrong on that. And then to complete the zombie apocalypse of degenerates negativity.
The triple play.
I mean, if you're going to lose a parlay, you may as well go 0-3, right?
Go hard.
So Golden State just annihilates the Denver Nuggets. I mean, Jokic notwithstanding, he had a decent game, and nobody else had more than 12 in that ball game for Denver. And Steph Curry comes off the bench now, 2 games into his return after a month out with what looked like a pretty significant. I mean, if you're going to have some kind of ankle or foot strain, that one looked like a bad one. And he comes back, and in like 12 minutes, he has 36 points, and he's out the door. Hitting everything. Coke machine.
When the pool
unbelievable.
Well, so it's like we know Curry's able to play well no matter what. Pool's only playing well as a starter.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep Curry coming off the bench? You 34
off the bench.
Like how long can you do that?
It's nuts, right? So all of a sudden, Golden State, and this was a wise guy thing earlier in the season. Early in the season, Golden State was going toe to toe with Phoenix for the best record in the West.
Yeah,
and they were like a game apart. Like 30 or 40 games in, even
to
the year. And then Golden State started losing players one at a time, different players that were key components of not only their big three, if you want to count that as a big three. Does that count as a big three? Thompson, Curry, and Draymond Green.
At the prime, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you do that right now, but yes, when all are healthy, they're one of the original big threes.
Thompson was popping some shots. I mean, yeah, it was a total annihilation. In fact, both games had similar parallels. I guess parallel would have to be similar. Both games had similarities. Let's put it that way,
Yes.
Lubie.
Yes.
Where from the second quarter through the end of the third quarter, it was just complete domination by the home team. And so those series now go to 2-0. Philadelphia over Toronto, going back to Toronto. And there is the one player whose name, even though I asked you before the show and you told me, I still can't remember the guy's name. The defensive stalwart for the 76ers.
Thibault, it might be Thibault, T-H-Y.
Thibault? Yeah.
For the Sixers.
Yeah, and he can't play in Toronto because he's not fully vaccinated. He has one shot, never got the second one.
Which I don't get. If you want to do the Kyrie thing, fine. I don't understand that either. But why get
Mel
one?
Kiper, by the way, unvaccinated. Mel Kiper.
That's stupid.
Will not be working at the draft in Las Vegas. He's going to be sitting, somewhere at home doing what we're doing. And Mel Kiper, unvaccinated. But he said he had like a personal medical reason for this.
There are some people I've met where they have health issues where literally getting the vaccine would hurt them. Okay, that I understand. But these NBA players, that's not the case. Whatever, do what you want. Kyrie, he's figured his way out. But for me, Thibault, you got one of the shots. Like you already did it.
Yeah. How weird is that? Yeah.
Like,
Maybe he got sick and he figured he didn't want to experience this again. Possible, right?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Very unusual, right? I mean, why would you go and do that in a half-assed fashion? Either a yes or no, you would think.
Yeah.
Because the second shot was, deemed to be essential if you were going to get any impact from having the first one. So, anyway, he's not going to be available. That's too technical for me, Dr. Fauci. He's not going to be available, for the 76ers. And how much of a factor he is, we'll find out.
I don't know.
You would have to think Toronto could do better than they have in the first two games of the series.
And they'll be at home, and they have a great home court advantage. So I'd presume they'd get a game there, but I don't know. What we've seen these first two games, Harden's not killing it statistically, but he's involved enough where Maxi's excelling, and Harris is back to being that guy who's like a legit second or third guy, and Embiid's been really good. Like they're not playing their best ball and winning by 20 something, like around 20 points. Like that's what's impressive.
Yeah, I mean they were formidable enough for me to think that they would be a factor during the course of the season, and then after the Harden deal, I thought actually that might inspire Harden to new heights. I guess he slumped a little bit towards the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
James Harden wasn't quite as productive as he was at different times when he first got to the team. All right, and that's all part of the NBA action. And of course, we have Ron Rothstein coming up here in just a few minutes on the show. So looking very much forward to that. Help us dissect what's going on with the Heat and the Atlanta Hawks. Now, you would have to think that the Hawks couldn't do much worse than they did in the first game of the series. I don't know. Can the Heat play any better than they did in game number one? And what differences will we see? I mean, if you're coaching the Hawks, if you're Nate McMillan, what do you do? I mean, how do you stifle what was just an unbelievable offensive onslaught by the Miami Heat by their standards? And you would have to imagine you're not going to see Duncan Robinson go 8 for 9 from 3-point range again, but you might resurrect Tyler Hero's game in this ball game, and if that happens, it's just as bad in terms of news for the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, and that's the thing that's what's very much like the Sixers last night. Like the Heat won in strong fashion, but it wasn't. Two of their four best players, Bam and Hero, weren't great offensively. Like it was really behind Robinson hitting the open threes that opened the floor for Butler and Lowry and these guys to get to the basket. So, like the Heat won in dominant fashion, and they didn't play their best ball. Like Hero's been really the key cog all season long, and he didn't play well. So the Heat can get better. Now you would presume the Hawks would get better too. Look, the one thing you're going to need to do if you're the Hawks is find a way to get Trae Young easy shots. Trae Young, whoever defended, and they put everyone at him. Bam, Strus, Hero had time there. Lowry was the one that defended the crap out of him. He didn't have a second to breathe, and that's what he's used to doing. That's why he takes those ridiculous ass shots, because they usually leave him open. Even on those 30-footers, he was covered. Like he didn't have anywhere to go. So if you're the Hawks, if you're McMillan, you're trying to free him up. That's the only thing I could think of, because that the Heat, if they have defensive intensity, they're one of the. That's why they're the number 1 seed. The problem with them is they go through these lapses where Butler is like, and Lowry's in, and Tucker's in.
They're geared up, man. Heat culture was sprinkled all over this. You know what? Trae Young looked like Robbie Benson in the world's worst ever made. We were talking about movies, degenerate movies with The Gambler and James Caan, but the worst ever sports movie made was a movie called One on One with Robbie Benson, and he's this high school hotshot that gets in there with the wicked coach, who hates him, and he comes into practice, and he's dribbling the ball off his knee. He just looks like absolute dog meat the entire time, and the coach is always riding him, and I guess he's going to quit basketball. Somehow he makes a comeback, not only gets a hot babe, but ends up starring in some big game to win a championship. Worst movie ever made. Robbie Benson, One on One.
Okay.
If you find yourself watching it, I would suggest having several numbers at your fingertips. Including, various counseling services that would talk you out of doing something dire and drastic. All right? Like walking right off the Dania Pier and into the ocean. All right, Ron Rothstein coming up here on a show. It's always great talking to Ron Rothstein. Of course, the original coach of the Miami Heat. Boy, did he go through some slings and arrows of outrageous misfortune while he was, including not having very good players. He was great in that spot, and it had to be, you get your first good. Been an assistant for a long time. He becomes a head coach, but you're saddled with an expansion franchise, and they weren't very kind to expansion franchises in the NBA. You would have to say.
No,
they didn't give him like the number 1 pick. They had the number 9 pick overall. They took Ronnie Cycli.
It's not like what they did with Vegas Knights, where they gave them like
hockey. Wow, I mean, I want to say, and I haven't followed it this closely. They might be in last place, as far as I know. But I always see on the crawl. I pay attention to the Seattle Kraken, the expansion. Yes, it seems like
them. Yep.
Seems like they win their share of games, don't they? For an expansion team, you would figure the NHL would never do again what they did with the Las Vegas Knights, although I think it was very beneficial for them because Las Vegas immediately became a place that, would you not put that on your bucket list of places you wanted to go see a hockey game? If you had a bucket list of hockey games that you wanted to attend. I don't know. I would love to see a game there. I really would.
Got to be a blast. Are you kidding me? A game in Vegas? Like the Raiders and the Knights, Golden Knights have got to be a freaking great time.
Why aren't we scheduled? Where's Jack with the budget for the draft show that we wanted to do from Las Vegas? Come on, Jack. No, I mean, wouldn't that be the thing to do? No, we would probably have to arrange that on our own. Yeah, I guess and the perfect build up to it would be to go to this Cigar of the Year party, wouldn't it?
Saturday, yep, that'd be a great start.
Go there on a Saturday night and then start making our preparations to go out there for draft coverage. And is there a draft radio row? Chris Visser was proposing that at one time, that there should be a draft radio row.
I think they have something, but it's not like the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay. Because they really should consider doing that, right? I mean, it would be a great way for them to promote all the various entities that are involved with the NFL. This is going to be a great way to promote the Cigar of the Year. And, of course, Oliva, one of the leaders there, Melanio, Madura. It's taking place, this Cigar of the Year party at the Surf Comer Hotel. You blend your own Cigar of the Year from a variety of just outstanding sources. And then they have the whole food and drink thing going on with an open bar, Lubie. I mean, you had me at open bar.
I'm sure.
South Beach open bar. I don't know. Maybe I just changed my style from the old stodgy, crusty old man that I am to, getting out there and trying to be hip again, right? Spike up the hair a little bit. Maybe put a little Just for Men in there.
There you go.
Wear a scarf. Anyway, universe.com/Cigar of the Year. That's how you get more information on this party. And Oliva, everybody knows, is like a standout brand, is it not? People smoking them all over the place.
Yep.
Was that Don King's cigar of choice, Oliva?
Maybe.
I don't remember. Always had the cigar. All right, coming back, and speaking of lighting up Victory Cigars, he's done many, had many occasions to do that in his career. Ron Rothstein going to join us, now a color analyst with the Heat broadcast team on Bally Sports Sun. It is Bally Sports Sun. And he will join us next and help us dissect what's going to happen. I'm sure there'll be words that are encouraging to you, Lubie, about Game 2 coming up tonight, Miami Heat. Also on the ticket tonight in the NBA, the Memphis Grizzlies try to redeem themselves and square up their series with the Timberwolves. 0-2 at home, Lubie. Very prohibitive. 0-2 if you fall to 0-2 at home. So who's the pressure on, as the cliche goes? You would have to think Memphis needs to
Must
front
win.
load a big ball game tonight. What do you think happens there? Memphis. They're laying points, too.
I presume they win.
They win. They're at 6.5.
I'm presuming they win. You can't go down 2 games when you were the home team. I mean, that's not good. I presume they win.
All right, Ronnie Rothstein will help us figure out all of that stuff, and a very astute, great analyst of basketball. He joins us next here on Ion Channel on the Defo Show. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He's Mike Lubitz on It's Fine Tuesday, returning with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:39. Poker is your game. You're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. And a couple of minutes away here from speaking with Ron Rothstein, who is now with the Heat broadcast team, a longtime coach in the NBA, of course. And good, we have Ron Rothstein with us here on the program. And it's always a pleasure to get an opportunity to just listen to the brilliance of his basketball analysis, whether he's on TV or with us here on the show. Ron Rothstein, how are you? Great to have you on the program here on Ion Channel. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Defo. How are you?
I couldn't be better. I'm feeling really good. Usually Lubie is a kiss of death, and he was very confident about the Heat's, first game against the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks having to play those 2 play-in games with great intensity, and they managed to get through that. And we saw, Trae Young is hitting shots from the Coke machine, and he's just cutting through the paint like it was the Red Sea parting for him, making all kinds of great plays and passes. And they come in and lay an egg against the Miami Heat, who looked like a completely different team than either of the 2 they faced prior to that. What were your thoughts about that opener? Could it have gone any better for Miami than it did against Atlanta in Game 1?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty much we got everything we wanted. We did everything we did. We held them. They never got going. And it's not surprising. They came off a very emotional win on Friday to get into the 8th spot. And that's a tough turnaround. If you're playing in a series and you play every other day, that's one thing. But if you end the series or that play-in game, and now you got to start a new series, okay, and the turnaround time is 1 day, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. And it's almost like a throwaway game for the team that for Atlanta. It's almost a throwaway game for them because, look, they come in, they're on the road, the home team's supposed to win. So the home team wins the first two. Well, the home team, you know, they did what they're supposed to, okay? Now you go back to Atlanta. If Atlanta wins the next two, now it's a 3-game series. So getting beat in game one is not the worst thing, and it happens quite often. It doesn't necessarily mean you're out of the series. I've experienced many playoff series losing the first game and going on to win the series, sometimes in a 4-game sweep. So it's a playoff. You know, you just never know. They said that they felt they had heavy legs. We were fresh. But I think we're playing really, really well. And I'm not sure we're going to blow them out like that every game. I would doubt it. They have too many offensive weapons. But no question about it, Sunday we would.
Ron Rothstein with us here on the Defo Show. Ron, of course, with Bally Sports Sun, doing all of the analysis, the brilliant stuff that he does with Jason Jackson on the telecasts of the games. All right, I mean, my theory, I believe Clint Capella is underrated as not only an excellent player. I mean, obviously he has a good reputation, solid, but in these spots in particular in the postseason, he always seems to be a guy that stands out. How impactful is his absence, in your opinion? And I mean, how badly does that compromise Atlanta's chances, not only tonight, but the rest of the way if he's unavailable?
That hurts. There's no question about it. He's a big, terrific rebounder, scores around the basket, great pick and roll player, sets good screens, rolls, catches, bobs for dunks, puts pressure puts pressure on the defense, makes other people commit a step or a half a step more than they want to, and to then be able to get back out to the perimeter. And a lot of times in the game, there's a lot of nuance to professional basketball. Step here, half a count there, makes a big difference. And not having him hurts them. There's no question about it. It's like if we didn't have Bam. Would it hurt us? Absolutely. So it's definitely to our advantage that he's not playing. No question.
We're talking about Bally Sports, Florida Miami Heat analyst, one and only Coach Ron Rothstein. Coach, the Heat put on that display, and that's with Tyler Hero sort of being a little bit shaky offensively. The other side of that was Trae Young just was smothered. I mean, 1 of 12 field goals, had 8 points total, was horrendous behind the 3-point line. You were a guy that was a part of trying to stifle Michael Jordan. If you're the coach trying to wake up Trae Young, what could the Hawks possibly do to get him, quote unquote, off, as they say? As that was the worst, I think, shooting night of the year for Trae Young.
Yeah, he was 1 for 12. He had a horrible game, and he couldn't find any space. I think one of the things they're going to try and do is, a lot of times they'll play 5 out. And when you play 5 out, you allow the defense to protect. Like if he gets the ball top of the circle above the 3-point line, you know, in the middle of the floor is where he can be most effective. But I think one of the things they will probably do is they'll take those wing guys. I think they'll drop them to the corners and take the corner guys and move them in a little bit. Or they might just clear out one side. I think they're going to do less pick and roll because of the way we switch and try and get him in isolation one-on-one. Now, I'm not positive that they're going to do. I think the other thing is they've got to be better defensively and get more stops and get them out in the open court so that he can attack the transition. One of our weaknesses, we do turn the ball over a lot, but we also turn people over. You turn the other team over a lot also. So it's almost a wash. The games when we're not turning teams over, they're turning the ball over, are the games that we struggle, or the game when we're not shooting 3 well. But they were they were poor defensively the other night. Now, They're not a great defensive team. They don't have a great defensive rating, but they do turn people over. So if they can get into us, play a little bit better defense, get out in the open court more, and get him in transition, and he can get rolling and get a rhythm, that could change the whole tenor of the game.
Ron Rothstein, our guest here on Ion Channel, the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. I'm laughing because Trae Young in that ballgame, I don't know if you ever saw this movie. It's probably the worst sports movie ever made. Certainly the worst basketball movie ever made. One-on-one with Robbie Benson, where he comes out for a college team after being a high school hotshot. Everything he does goes wrong. He's kicking the ball all over the place, and the coach is all over him. And Trae Young couldn't do a thing right. It seemed like in that ball game. All right, this game also, this game one, especially Ron Rothstein, was kind of steeped in heat culture, and it's kind of interesting to build up to the postseason because we were sort of posing this question, and during the course of the year, that the Heat have the best record in the East. Are they the best team in the East? And maybe if you took like the word team in quotes, they might be the best team overall. What is your thought on that? Because it was so tight. I mean, are we splitting hairs when you're talking about Miami and the other what would appear to be your real contenders in there, which are numerous, including Philadelphia, Boston, and Milwaukee?
It's a tough call, Defo. We were the best team in the regular season. We won the most games, plain and simple. Are we going to be the best team in the playoffs? No one really knows yet. I think it's going to be very, very competitive. I think you're going to see some really, really interesting and exciting playoff series. Right now, you got one in Boston between Brooklyn and Boston, which I think is going to be a real dogfight. Philly looks like they're just overwhelming Toronto. I think Toronto's a little short-handed. Scotty Barnes got hurt. And then you've got Milwaukee, Chicago. Now, that first game was a very competitive game.
Yeah.
Chicago had their chances to win. Milwaukee is still the champion, but they have not performed yet this year up to their championship standard of last year. For whatever reason. The only thing I'll say about that is it's really, really difficult. It's very, very hard. And I think they're feeling the effects of being the champion, being the hunted, and maybe they've lost a little bit of their want, desire. I don't know. I don't pretend to have that answer. It just seems that way so far. But yet, they still are the champions. So we'll have to wait and see.
All right, you've been around this and no doubt had both experiences. And you're looking at Brooklyn after that game. I mean, you talk about a gut-wrenching fashion in which to lose a ball game. You get a great defensive possession there because it seemed like the ball could only go one of two places on the final possession that Brooklyn had. And you had Kyrie, who had a sensational game, dribbling around for like an hour like he was making the Cochise move. And then at the last second, he shovels it off to Kevin Durant. And he has to fire like a brick from about 30 feet away. So tough. And then they come down and lose it in the final second. Now, people always ask this of sports talk hosts or whatever, and we always are having theories about it and different analysts. I mean, if you lose in that fashion, is it more painful and harder to get over than just like Atlanta did, getting blown out in game number one, and then you sort of shrug that off and say, well, geez, we were under the, for some very difficult circumstances, we'll come back and play better. I mean, do players let those kind of losses stick with them, or can they just shake this off and turn the page, Brooklyn in game number two, as if none of this transpired?
I think Brooklyn will be even more determined in game two because they feel like they let it get away. They had that game one, even if it was by 1 point. And if you go back and replay the last 20 seconds of that game, it started with a Brooklyn offensive possession and then the missed shot by Durant. So actually it started, let me think now. They got the ball back with 10 seconds to go.
Yep.
And so it had to start with like 30, 34 seconds to play. Okay. And, or 32 or whatever it was. And then Boston played 24, 23 seconds of great defense, forced Durant into a terrible shot.
Yeah.
It always, I don't know if the word bother is right, but always bothered me when a guy did what Kyrie did. Dribble, 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 and then he can't get a shot off, and then he shoves it to the other guy with the shot clock down, and that guy's got to jack up a shot that he's really not ready for. Not even the great Kevin Durant. Okay? And he misses it. Now, one of the things about double teaming, when you double team the ball and the guy with the ball holds the ball, you enable a double team to get better and better. Really, really good, smart players, once they get that second guy, know somebody's open.
Yep.
But this is sort of interesting, I think. You don't double team an average guy, you double team the great guy. And the great guys have tremendous belief in themselves. And quite often when they see a double team, especially at the end of the game, they don't want to get off the ball. They want to make the play. They want to make the shot. Because they're so competitive. They have such great belief in themselves. Well, if you keep holding that ball and then you wind up having to get rid of it because you got nothing and the shot clock's running down, you're really not helping your team and you're putting your teammate in their spot. But now when Boston got the ball, and Imi Udoka, the Boston coach, they asked him about it in the press conference. I don't know if you saw it, and said, did you consider taking a timeout? He said, no, our philosophy, we've been doing this all year. In these situations, I tell my team, I will call the timeout. You just play. You get the ball and you go. If I don't like what I see, I'll call it timeout, which I think is really sound, and I think it's smart coaching. Especially because now coaches can walk on the floor and call a timeout. You know, years ago, you couldn't do that. Somebody on the court has to do it. So what he did was, and what they're trained to do, is get the rebound and go, which they did. There was no hesitation. You go back and watch the replay of that play. There was absolutely no hesitation. And he just played it out. He let it ride. And the interesting part of it was the skip pass to Smart on the weak side. That was the trigger. He threatened shot, and their rotations broke down because two guys flew at him, not one, and they both flew by, and he was smart enough to put it on the floor and make the play to Tatum. Tatum made a great cut. Look, they just, they beat the buzzer by 2/10 of a second.
Yeah, it was crazy.
They were living on the edge, but it had to go perfect, and it did. But the interesting thing to me was what he said about his coaching style and what they have been trained to do, and they did it.
No, it was great. Thriller Manila type of stuff to finish off that ball game. And, it should create a lot of excitement, as you said, maybe an even more intense effort by the Brooklyn Nets against a very competitive opponent there in the Boston Celtics. All right, one final thing, Ron. It's always great having you on the show, but just curious about this. We've been asking, we had Eric Reed on the show last week, and we asked him if he had come across Pat Riley. And I don't know if you're watching this Winning Time thing, but the portrayal of Riley, and we've kind of equated it. I don't know if you're familiar with Bobcat Goldthwait, he comes off in this show, Winning Time, as if he was some kind of, throwback hippie buffoon out of Haight-Ashbury. Have you talked to Riley about this show at all, and is he familiar with this portrayal? Because I would imagine, if Johnny Depp could sue Amber Heard, Riley could make a pile of cash off this portrayal.
No, Defo, I have not watched it. I don't intend on watching it. I've not talked to Pat about it. I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's a non-issue. Somebody's taking what do they call it? Literary
Artistic license, yeah.
License.
We majored in that in college, artistic license. It's called fabrication, I guess. Yeah.
I think it's term. Yeah, I mean, they can turn it and twist it any way they want. Okay,
Yeah.
it's their perception or what they want it to be. Not necessarily their perception, but what they want it to be, because they think it'll get better ratings or. No, I'm not buying that stuff. No.
All right, yeah, and they make Jerry West out to be an overt asshole. You know, I mean, it's crazy. Jerry West.
Somebody's getting paid for that and making money. They don't care what they do to other people.
Yeah.
What do they care?
I mean, you would imagine they would have a favorable vision, of Pat Riley. I'm glad he hasn't seen it or commented on it, though. And Ron, it's always a pleasure. Brilliant as always. My God, I feel. I mean, I have just, really appreciated the insight you provided. We'll enjoy tonight's game. And are you guys broadcasting these games, or do they go to like TNT and ESPN?
No, we do the first round.
Oh, great.
As long as it's not an ABC game, we do the games. And after the first round, everything is national. But we do some in-house stuff we've done in the past. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out this year, but we've done stuff on online streaming on the computer, and I guess a lot of it is really for the archives, so to speak.
Well, it's good for the to get the local flavor here. Sure.
It's some fun.
Yeah. Ron, we love you. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for being with us here on the show. Really appreciate it.
Always good to talk to you guys. Please be well. Take care. See you next time.
Thanks so much. All right. Thank you. All right. I mean, it's looking like a second round is going to be a possibility, very real. I don't know. We have any action with Mayo on that, the basketball?
No. Nothing? He actually believes in the Heat.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Consistently, he believes in them. It's just the Panthers that he's a total jerk off about.
You can't gamble and make it personal, right? You really can't. I mean, look at the professor betting on Coach K. Betting on Coach K.
I know.
Don't you pass the game at that point if you have even the slightest, amount of moral fiber and character? Don't you just say, "Hey, I can't make money off this guy after the way." No, it'd be like him betting on the Patriots to win the Super Bowl.
But he's bet on the Gators, and he hates the Gators. He's bet on the Gators. That's actually degenerate morals, where whatever your personal beliefs are, if you really feel strongly about a game, you have to go with it. Like, that's just what I've learned from you, your brethren, and the professor, Ken Man. If there's a really strong play there, even if you hate the team and don't want to root for them, if you can see it winning easy, you have to go for it. So I give him credit for that. I can't do it. That's why I stopped doing fantasy, having to root for players I hate. I couldn't do it, but good for him for being able to get over it in the sake of money.
No, that is, some serious discipline right there. You can get past your own emotional fabric here and, go ahead and make a wager on Coach K. I mean, it's like you hear this at the track where a guy says, I wouldn't bet that Chuck if he was riding Secretariat. It's the field of cheap claimers from Beulah Park. And, sure enough, there he is, like at the window. Hey, who'd you bet? The 4. Isn't that with so-and-so on it? What, are you kidding me? You'd rather bet on a dead man, you said, in the saddle. All right, a lot of fun being with you guys today. Thanks so much. It was great. Ron Rothstein. Always, you know what? Always really breaks these things into, very understandable communication with the fan. Excellent at that, right? I mean, because this is a guy that's been at the highest level of basketball. Highest level for a long, long time, including being a part of the Heat culture, right? And I find it odd that the Heat, and that any athlete really is fueled by that whole disrespect thing. Right? I mean, you don't get enough respect that you can ignore like a few people saying that you suck.
Well, who cares? You're making so much money. You're making a dream. Who cares? But we've seen it time and time again. Like these players at the highest level.
Who would care? Yeah, I mean, who would care what people said? Sure. All right, we don't care what people say. I mean, they could say the show sucks, and we'll still come back again, and hopefully do it again tomorrow for you guys. Unless the big man says that's it, then that would be a whole nother problem. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7. A lot of fun being with you all day long. The Defo Show. You can Google the Defo Show. Catch us later on after hours. Believe Network, and of course portions of the program. And imagine Ron Rothstein's interview will be replayed on 5 Reasons Sports Network, which is gaining a lot of steam. Scoop Skolnick, nice job there.
Yep.
It's got the numerology working. People are clicking onto this thing. So that's very, very encouraging for us. And thank you guys for tuning in. Always make it a pleasure being here on Eye On Channel. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff Deforrest. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
I'm starting to get my outros confused with the different shows we're doing. This is it. It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done.